Rocky Point tradition, 'cause it's summertime again. Rocky Point is so exciting. Rocky Point, where you can come alive. Rocky Point, you're all invited to share our summertime. Rocky Point.
What's up, SFNEOnline fans? This is John, your co-host of The Grove Show, here for a special Why Are They Gone episode for us, me and Dr. Giggles, as it is about the home park of our own. Yes, that's right, Rocky Point Park in Warwick, Rhode Island, which is our own home park. Sadly, it's gone. So we're going to find out why it's gone. But first, please subscribe and turn on your notifications so you don't miss anything that we do, any other episodes of Why Are They Gone, and other videos that we're going to be coming out. Please like our Facebook for a lot of interesting news that's coming out. Also on Instagram and TikTok, because there are crazy videos on TikTok that are coming out. But let's get into this. Come with your family. Come with your friends. It's a SFNEOnline tradition. It's Why Are They Gone? Rocky Point. That's right. Rocky Point Park in Warwick, Rhode Island was once a huge stable for Rhode Islanders and most of southern New England in the area for years. Hundreds of thousands of park goers went through this park throughout the years. This had become a very, very well-known family park for tons and tons of family. To enjoy the beautiful sights of Narragansett Bay, the tastes and smells of the clam cakes and chowder at the Shore Dinner Hall, the music that we used to listen to that they had concerts at. But first and foremost, it was the fun rides and games that Rocky Point offered for families and throughout the 60s, 70s, even 80s and early 90s, even before then. So this was a park that had a fun lineup of rides throughout the years. But before we answer why it's gone, here's a little history on Rocky Point itself. These rides were not even a thought when the park opened up way back in 1847, when Captain William Winslow, who was a small steamboat owner, saw Rocky Point as a desirable location and land for his new venture to take passengers to have dinners and outings. He bought the 89 acres of land for a mere $2,400. That's not much in today's views, but back then it was a big investment. He began to charge 25 cents for a trip to his land, or they used to call it the resort on the bay. Then the 25 cents later became the charge to get on the boat and into the park. As Winslow kept adding new things to his land, he made a bowling alley, and in 1850, the first carousel, swings, and something called a Spanish fandango. Then later, in the 1850s and early 60s, the first casino opened up. This opened the resort to traveling entertainment, politicians to come and have meetings, and big meetings and sporting events had started to take off, such as boxing. And they had boxing events in the casino area. In 1865, Winslow sold the land and the park to Brian Sprague, where Sprague in Rhode Island, the Sprague name was known for the Sprague Mansion. He spent $60,000 for the land and he also kept on trying to make the land into the playground for the rich. He added over another $30,000 when he had a hotel built, an observatory built, and also more bathhouses built on the property later on. But then failed and sold the park later on to the Continental Steamboat Company later on. Rocky Point is known for a very historical event in 1877 when President of the United States Rutherford B. Hayes placed the very first phone call ever made, and this was made from Rocky Point to the Providence City Hall, 13 miles away, to Alexander Graham Bell himself. This was an amazing feat that not many know that in Park's history, this was made. They laid 13 miles of wire from Rocky Point to Providence for this event. There is now a plaque placed in the park today that commemorates this feat as well. In 1883, tragedy had struck the park as a massive fire burned on the park's land. The fire burned for a while as it took the Warwick Fire Department and other departments that were around the area, including Providence and Cranston and others, to get there. By the time they got there, the fire had damaged quite a bit of the property. By the time it was extinguished, the damage was seen, and it was awful. The Rocky Point Hotel, the amusement center, the clam dinner hall that they had built, the bathhouses were all destroyed. The fire ended the dual persona that it had gained before as a resort and a day destination. So the man that took over the operations of the park for years, Colonel Randall A. Harrington, announced he would keep the park as a resort and add amusements to the park, like some that were seen on Coney Island in New York. They rebuilt the dinner halls, and it became very popular again, as locals and park goers could get some great food. Also, fishermen could dock up at the dinner hall at that time and go and eat and then go back out on the bay and fish. By 1907, the park returned to normal and the park's attractions started to grow with an addition from Joseph Carolalo. Sorry, I can't pronounce his name. He moved his carousel from Lakeside Park in New York to Rocky Point. Under Harrington, the park grew in popularity. He brought in many shows and the best acts from all around. He found ways to bring in even the Babe himself. That's right, Babe Ruth himself got to come to Rocky Point, as the Babe was signed with the Red Sox, and he played 2 games up there in Boston before he was sent down to the baseball team that Providence had, which was the Providence Grays at the time. This became an idea for Harrington. He had a famous idea of having baseball played in his land, on his land, for many years. He even had games played during Sundays during the Blue Laws, and well, people still came on Sundays and watched those games. But the famous game with the Babe that was played at Rocky Point was the September 27th in 1914, the game between the Providence Grays and the Chicago Cubs. Babe Ruth pitched for Providence. Ruth held the mound throughout the game, while he pitched wildly, as it was said in the archives. He successfully kept holding the Cubs to 7 scattered hits and struck out 7. Root didn't disappoint even with his bat, when he hit a home run in the 3rd inning, clearing the hill where the ball field was, which was in right field, and bouncing the ball into the water of Narragansett Bay. But it was said by the rules for the ball field that Ruth was only going to be credited with a triple, not a home run, due to the ball going into the water. So yes, he got screwed. But that's a nice little fact about having Babe Ruth here in Rhode Island, even at Rocky Point. But by 1918, Harrington had built up the park even more with the additions of a loop Ferris wheel, a circle swing, in a flume type ride called the Russian Toboggans. The park had the nickname the New England's most beautiful amusement park because the sights and sounds of the Narragansett Bay was so beautiful. Sadly, Harrington had died in 1918 after he did some work to the park. His wife closed the park for a little time and it reopened later in 2 years in 1920. While in this time era, trains and trolleys became the modes of transportation, and Rocky Point was no different as they built tracks that transported parkgoers, families, workers from all around southern New England. This demand to go to the park or even to the shoreline at the park in the hot summer days was so big they had to make multiple lines to Rocky Point from different areas from Providence and Warwick and nearby Cranston as well. Tens of thousands of riders wouldn't mind riding in the trolleys and train cars where they were packed to the gills with park goers. It was a great time back then, it was said. With more and more park goers flowing through the gates, the park wound up finally opening its first big thrilling ride in 1926 called the Wildcat roller coaster. It was designed by Herbert Schmack and manufactured by the Philadelphia Toboggan Coasters Company. The wooden Wildcat took Rocky Point's excitement to a new level, tossing and turning its riders in